witches.
Hi, hello.
We are back and ready for part 2 of the Science of Witchcraft. Which
Did you hear that?
Right there? No, but I saw your face.
I took a drink and it kind of, like that weird kind of throat noise you can make with didn't like that. All right, go ahead. Carry
All
on.
right. Well, just to give you a heads up so you don't have to worry about it this time, my headphones are fully charged and my backup headphones are right down here on the floor if I need them. I
Just in
finally found
case.
them. So that will not be an issue again. But back to this, we're doing The Science of Witchcraft by Meg Hafdahl and Kelly Florence. We already did the first 2 sections about origins of witches and witches other. And we're going to go on with section 3 today, which is about fairy tales.
I love me some good fairy tale.
Me too. And honestly, if nothing else, this book has given me a long list of movies and books that I want to look into. Um and it's you're going to find out something about me, all you witches out there today, that you're going to be like, "What the fuck?" Which we'll get there when we get there. But after reading that section of this book, I've been like, "Holy crap, I need to go watch that movie." But the first movie we're going to discuss today is Gretel and Hansel. And yes, I said that correctly. I know in the fairy tale it's Hansel and Gretel, or Hansel and Gretel, however you choose to pronounce it, which was written in 1812 by the Brothers Grimm. Where, if you don't know this story, a brother and a sister are led into the woods by their family, and they do breadcrumbs, but the birds eat their breadcrumbs or something like that. And they find this house. They're left alone by their family, and they find this house that's all candy or something, and the witch takes them in and fattens them up so she can eat them. And in the original Grimm fairy tale, I think she does eat one of them. But
I think, yeah,
this
the
the
boy, maybe?
boy, I think. In this version, it's real different, okay? This came out in 2020. And the director was Oz Perkins. He switched the names in the title, so it's Gretel and Hansel instead of Hansel and Gretel. And he did that on purpose. And this is a quote from him. It says, "There was more of a feeling like Gretel having to take Hansel around everywhere she goes, and how that can impede one's own evolution. How our attachments and the things that we love can sometimes get in the way of our growth." Which I thought was a really powerful passage, because that happens a lot. Sometimes you outgrow people or things. You don't let them go, and that causes you issues. But there's some really cool symbolism and things in this movie. I've never seen this movie, but after reading about it, it sounds really interesting. There are triangles a lot throughout the set decoration, especially when the witch is present. And that is because of Pythagoras, actually. Pythagoras of the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Yeah. And because he believed that geometry could offer a rational understanding of God, man, and nature. So they use triangles a lot. He also, Pythagoras, or is that how you say it, Pythagoras?
That's how the Americans say it, but a Greek person once pronounced it as Pythagoras.
Okay. Well, whichever. That guy said that pentagrams represent the 5 elements, which you also see a lot in witchcraft and Wicca. And the 5 elements are fire, water, air, earth, and spirit, which sometimes I think is called ether.
Fire and air.
Did you
Ever
just
seen that movie?
Scooby-Doo? Was that the Hex Girls?
Yes, it was.
We're gonna talk about the Hex Girls here in a little bit in the book, but yes, Brittany's gonna shit her pants when she hears this. She
I
literally is gonna shit her pants.
That's so funny. Listen, I wasn't a big fan, like Scooby Doo fan, but that specific one right there. Oh, in the
Yeah,
Zombie Island one, those two were my favorite.
the Zombie Island is my favorite one, but I do
I
really
just
like
like
the
the
Hex
Hex
Girls,
Girls. That's
and I
really
think
it. I didn't care about anything else. I just like them.
yeah, I think honestly, the Hex Girls were a little bit of my sexual awakening. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, for sure. I can't remember the red one's name, but the red one.
Thorn. Her name is Thorn.
Thorn. Yes. That's it right there.
Oh my gosh, I love that that just happened. That just made my whole day. Actually, what was that, like 5 minutes? Okay.
I don't know. Hey, listen, every single time someone starts saying like the elements, I either start going into the Avatar the Last Airbender like spiel or Hex Scrolls.
That
That's it.
I love that. That just made my whole day. Oh my gosh. So also, back to Hansel and Gretel or Gretel and Hansel, whichever way you prefer to say it. Um, they are in the woods. They haven't met the witch yet in this movie, and they find some mushrooms because they're like in the forest and they're children and they're starving, right? And they eat these
Mhm.
mushrooms. And I'm not really going to talk about the movie at this part, but the author of this book gives some tips about if you are ever in the woods and looking for edible mushrooms, um, if it's how to know if it's safe to eat. And one basic tip is to choose a mushroom that does not have white gills, which the gills are the part underneath the cap. Um, and some mushrooms with white gills are edible, but almost all of the poisonous ones have white gills. So you're going to want to look for ones that have brown or tan gills. Um, and if the mushroom cap or stem is red, you should avoid eating. Honestly, if you're out in nature and you're not positive that you should eat something and it's red, then don't eat it. Because a lot of the time in nature, plants and animals will, like, their color is like a defense mechanism. So if they're brightly colored or like poisony colored, then
I
don't
think
eat
there's like
them.
a snake out there that if it's if it's like yellow, red, and black, and depending on the like what touches what color will tell you if it's poisonous or not.
Yeah. And I think there's a frog, like frogs, like, yeah. Just
Yeah, the
basically
poison dart frog.
bright colors, don't eat it. Um,
Don't touch it.
yeah, don't just stay away from it. This
Go
also says
away.
avoid eating mushrooms that have scales or spots on them, and avoid ones that have a ring around the stem. So basically, just don't eat mushrooms. I don't know,
Don't do
especially not if they
it.
have white gills. Um,
For sure though.
right. So then they keep doing that, and then they find the witch, or the witch finds them. I've never seen the movie. I'm not sure exactly how that happens. The witch in this movie is a gorgon. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
which is
cool.
kind of cool. Oh, Odin would like to jump in on this conversation. I don't know
He
if you
is
guys could hear
singing
that.
you the song of his people.
Well, he's got to stay out there with his other mom.
He's like, no, I want the good one.
Well, she might. I don't know. She might have gone in the shower. I don't know. But anyway, this witch is able to sense that a storm is coming. Like she says in the movie that she takes on the form of an older woman to appear kind of weak, but she's actually really powerful. And in the movie, she's able to sense that a storm is coming on.
Hmm,
And
hmm.
that's actually like a thing, which anybody who has had any kind of injury or anything like that, especially to your joints, you know that when the is it barometric pressure or barometric? that kind of pressure. Barometric pressure.
We're
So
from the
like when
Midwest, so I
yeah,
think we're gonna say barometric unless we're saying a barometer.
right. Yeah.
We have two sayings or two pronunciations for it.
Yeah. So um it says bones or joints that are weakened by age or injury are in fact sensitive to changes in that barometric pressure. And there's not been any actual like physical studies done on this because it would be a super invasive procedure to watch it happen. But they've done studies by like asking people questions and that kind of stuff. And there has been a correlation. Um, and then it goes on to tell you about basically Gretel wins in this thing because Gretel is the main character. Um, and that's kind of the end of Gretel and Hansel. And then we move on to Maleficent, which this section of this book is actually really short, so there's not a whole lot that I'm going to say about it. But we all know the story of Sleeping Beauty, where Maleficent wasn't invited to the christening, or at least that's all we hear about in the story of Sleeping Beauty. And so she curses the baby. But then in the newer Maleficent in 2014 and then the sequel in 2019, we see her backstory and find out maybe why she turns evil a little bit. Um, but there is an author. The author's not named, but the author of The Secret History of Maleficent, Murder, Rape, and Woman Hating in Sleeping Beauty said, "We are taught to revere youth, beauty, and passivity among women, and to be suspicious, hateful even, of women who are older, powerful, and opinionated. Women who stand up for themselves are equated with murderous child killers, witches, and ogres, while women who literally lay back and take what men give them are awarded for their virtue." Which, yes. Like, I feel like so many of these witches are like feminist icons,
Mm-hmm.
and it like I really like the way that they're taking that into account in this book, which makes sense because it was two female writers who wrote this book and did all this research. But um the only other thing that really stood out to me about the Maleficent section of this book was um it talks about how Maleficent can sense when the curse takes a hold of Aurora in the film, and it kind of in the film seems like that is because she placed the curse so she can sense when it's enacted. But actually, um, like it asks like how can people have a sixth sense about certain things? And there's a neuroscientist, and I'm going to butcher his last name, but his name is Eric Hasseltine. And he says that people have more intuition than they realize. There's actually a direct quote from him um, about when we get a gut feeling, and it's useful to be aware that we are aware of things, both learned and innate, even though we aren't aware of why we are aware, because such awareness can decrease harmful self-doubts. The bottom line is that there are scientifically valid reasons to trust your feelings, perceptions, and intuitions, even when you can't sense how you sense them. So he goes on to say that, like, you might have subconsciously heard someone say that they were going to do something, or have seen somebody in the woods that you didn't realize you saw, or something like that. Kind of like how they used to, in movie theaters and on TV even, they would flash like a 1 second picture of something. Specifically in the movie theaters, they used to do it. They would picture like a 1 second burst of like a picture of popcorn. And then you'd be like, oh, I want some popcorn. But you don't know why you want it. Like it wasn't there long enough for your brain to really register. But
Now you want it.
yeah, it's implanted it in there. So if you get like don't second guess yourself is the whole point of that. Like you get gut feelings for a reason, and that you shouldn't second guess them because that can scientifically be backed up. Like something might have actually happened that made you feel that way.
Yeah.
Especially about people. If you got a weird feeling about someone, get the fuck away. I've listened to enough true crime to know that if you get a weird feeling about somebody, you need to get the fuck out of there.
For sure. Especially when I had a customer come up to me and not threaten me, but threaten me by pretending to put finger guns to my forehead.
Excuse
I
the
didn't tell
fuck
you
out of
about
you,
that.
sir. No, you did not. I've been
Well, this
calling the
happened.
police.
This happened last week, and this guy comes in looking for specific food for his cat, and I was like, "Oh, well, they rebranded this brand as from this to this, so let me go get that for you." And he followed me, and we were like talking about it, and after like 25 minutes of his entire life story and his working everything and getting in my face, and he has like fake teeth, and his teeth were like clacking,
Ugh,
and because they're like, I think, screwed into the sides here, but they're
ugh.
not like attached up top. So like every time he talked, I just kept staring at his teeth, and I think he knew because I kept going down to his. I just kept seeing it. Um, but he got like in my face. He said the N word, and like just it was just very uncomfortable. And every time I like tried to break away, it didn't work. And I was like, okay, I gotta go. Like blah blah blah. Like you stupid old fucking man. And then at the end, I was like, okay, go ahead and try that cat food. Let us know if you have any questions. And I start walking away, and he goes, don't worry. And then he come like right up into my face, and he was like, because if my little miss ever has anything to say. And then at this point, he put literally a finger gun to my forehead like this and was like, my little miss will be in here to see ya. And I looked at him, and I was like, she comes in here, I'm calling the police.
Yeah, get your hands off of me and away from me. Get
Do
out of the store.
it. And I was like, okay, bye. And then I walked away, and I was like, that was the scariest fucking thing I ever had to deal with. I mean, I also got flashed. Some not homeless guy, but I swear he was a drug addict, just decided to pull up his shirt
Oh,
with his pants around his fucking ass. And I'm like, I know I'm
sir.
not a male, but like, I know you feel that.
Right.
I know you feel that. You must be doped up right now to not feel this. And I was in a room by myself with him, locked
Oh,
in a locked
no.
room.
No, no,
So
no, no, no.
yeah, so that was fun. But yeah, so I was getting
Call
some
the
bad vibes.
police.
Yeah, as soon as I saw them, I was like, why the fuck am I the one doing this?
Why? Why is this me? Oh my gosh. Hot Mess Express. Boy. Well, to segue on from that, there's no real natural transition here, but the next the next one is The Wretched, which was a movie, yes, in 2019, by Brett Pierce and Drew Pierce. They were the writer and director, I believe. Like they both were the writers and the directors. And in this movie, there's a skinwalking witch who over time we learn about her unique powers and her fixations. Um, and then there's a really long interview with these two brothers, and most of it does not really have anything to do. It's all about like screenwriting and things like that. But basically, this witch, I mean, there's not a lot to say about her. She's very your typical witch. She steals children to stay young, kind of thing. The only thing that I thought was like really interesting for our purposes was they talked about how salt is used to ward off evil, um, which you see in a lot of movies. Um, and
And
it's not
ghosts.
ever done exactly right necessarily in the movies. But specifically, if you think of Hocus Pocus, is the one that comes to my mind, where Allison's like swinging the salt around like a crazy person. Um,
Listen, you
and
swinging salt around anybody, that's gonna hurt. Like,
right. Like, but I mean, in real witchcraft and certain spells, to cast like a circle you are going to potentially use salt to cast your circle. Not always, but sometimes. Um, so that was like the most interesting thing. And then there was a really funny little story here at the end, and I'm going to tell you the story, and then I want you to guess what state it happened in. So in
Okay.
2019, a man took the belief of salt creating a sacred space and safe space. He took that belief a little too far. He was arrested after pouring salt on his feet and all over the floor of a Walmart to ward off evil spirits. And he
Florida.
retreated to lay in the woods. Yes, it was
Florida.
Florida. That is correct.
What
Oh my
is
gosh.
Florida? Tell them what I won.
It's always Florida. A date with DeSantis. That's what you win.
I
I don't know if you want it, but there you go.
don't want it. I don't want it. You can keep it. Can we switch it to Disney
I'm going
World
to take the
though?
cash option.
Yeah, at least I can go to Disney World that way.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, that made me laugh a little bit. That's really all there was about that one. That one was more about the filmmaking aspect of witches than it was about, you know,
I
actual
love that.
witchcraft or science. Um, then we're on to section 4, which is Witch as Monster. Um, the first one in this is The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is a movie.
Oh, that's a good movie.
So it sounds really good. This is one of the ones that I've added to my list that I want to check out this summer. Um,
I not that it was like I didn't think it was scary by any means, but it was like psychologically you're just like
yeah, I think it's listed as a horror movie,
yeah.
but it sounds more like a murder mystery with witchcraft involved, kind of. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, since you've seen it, but um, it's
Uh
basically about a coroner and his son, um, and they realize what the markings are on an old cloth that was swallowed by a deceased woman who is Jane Doe. Um, there's a reference to Leviticus, um, specifically about witchcraft. Um, yeah, and they realize basically that this woman is a witch in doing the autopsy. Um, and as they're doing the autopsy, the more they get into it, they realize that she was tortured, she was stabbed, she was forced to take poison, she was burned, and like many, many other things were done to this woman before she passed. And Tommy, which is the son, is that the son?
I think so, yeah.
Nope, Tommy is the coroner. Austin is the son.
Oh,
Okay.
Austin. Hmm.
Um, Tommy, which is the dad, wonders if maybe this witch was innocent, but became a vengeful witch because of what happened to her and how she was killed. Which I feel like if you look at a lot of the witches in media, that happens. I mean, if you look at the backstory of Maleficent, like she wasn't evil, and then she was, and then even like Elphaba and in Wicked, she wasn't evil, and then stuff happened. She was, and 9 times out of 10,
There
it is a man.
yeah.
So
There was something in so if anyone goes to the Mystery of Life podcast, like their website, take a look at their blog post, and we wrote one. It's the history of witchcraft and witches. I actually talk about that because a lot of the times it was like a misconception of like we see this but it that's not what it really was. And a lot of the time back then women didn't read, women didn't write, majority of the scholars were men, so it was seen from a men's standpoint. So we don't really have like a lot of history of like witches or witchcraft. Like we have the fairy tale versions, we have like what could be passed down through generations kind of thing. But we kind of just know what happened in like from then to now kind of thing. um
Yeah, we don't know what led up to
based
that or
on white.
motivators.
Yeah, based on like
Yes,
white
male perspective.
men. Yeah. I don't want to, like, I'm not sitting here saying like African Americans didn't have that, or not even Americans, Africans didn't have that. I'm not saying like other cultures didn't have that, but like the majority of the information I read and received from was about Europe.
I'd say
Like,
the majority of
obviously,
the witch trials were in European
the
or
handbook to kill
America.
witches was made by two men, two white
It was a
men.
Maleficus yeah.
Yeah,
I forget what it's in here
but
somewhere, but yeah.
take a look at it and read about it and let us know what you think. But
Absolutely. And then what
get
is
a
it
little more.
next week
Hmm.
or the
We're
following
gonna
week?
we're
We're going
gonna
to be
send
sending
another
them
one.
another blog post about divination tools. So be on the lookout for that too.
If you want to watch
Um,
Autopsy of Jane Doe, it's on Tubi for free. Or you
ooh,
can do Apple TV, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Google Play, YouTube TV, all that kind of stuff.
I like it. I do want to watch this one. This one sounds really interesting. Um, and then it continues to go on. It talks about some of the more modern day autopsy things. Um, specifically, um, there
I don't
was
know why I was
a
thinking lobotomy when you said autopsy. I was like, oh yeah, like sticking it through your eye.
no. Like these people are already dead.
I
um, so there was actually so after like DNA testing and all that was invented, the autopsies have become much more effective. Um,
Yeah.
for example, in 1825, there was, well, way before 1825, in ancient Egypt, there was a mummy. And in 1825, she was found. And Dr. Augustus Bozzy Granville made a splash in the scientific community when he conducted the first autopsy on an ancient mummy. Um, he determined she was in her 50s when she died and that she died from a mass in her ovaries. However, in the 90s, Dr. Helen Donahue did an autopsy on the same mummy and talked with BBC News about how, um, because of DNA, because, in 1825, DNA testing was not a thing, um, she was able to pull DNA from the mummy, um, and found out that she actually died from tuberculosis. Tuberculosis. Um, and the infection that she had would have been fatal, and that the um, mass in her ovaries was actually benign. So it was just really cool to see like how autopsies have grown in that way in like a real life a real not real well, yeah, real life situation. Um, then the last thing about the autopsy of Jane Doe, or in this section of this, um, was that this is one of those little fun fact blurbs in like the little fancy marking things in the book, and it says 17th century Italian physician and autopsist Antonio Valsalva, lacking chemical tests and the understanding of germs, sometimes tasted the fluids he encountered in cadavers in an effort to better characterize them. Because old people were wildin'. So he was like, I don't know what that is. Better put it in my mouth.
Someone better have given him a Nobel Peace Prize because
Well,
no one has the balls for that. And you know
phew.
what? Because of him, we have warning labels.
Oh my god, so much so. Oh we.
His descendants were probably the Tide Pod eaters.
Oh my god. Yes. I'm here for that. I like that comparison. Oh my god. But yeah, so at the end of that movie, well, I'm not going to say it. If you want to go watch that movie, go ahead and watch it. I've kind of had the ending a little bit spoiled for me by reading this book. Just a little bit though. I still want to watch
But
it.
it's good. I mean, It's very
Yeah, I
good.
for sure still want to watch it. It's very much seems to kind of go along with like the witch hunts and all of that. Um, at least on her side of the story. So I still want to watch it. Still sounds like
I
a good
kind of
movie.
I think of it more as a thriller just because like yeah, there are ghosts and all of that in it, but like are they really ghosts or are they just seeing the ghosts?
Right. Right.
Are they so used to seeing dead bodies that they're materializing these dead beings as part of their imagination? I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's more
fully
like a
believe in ghosts, so
psychological
like
kind of thriller, but
yeah,
like
so I mean, I
yeah.
fully believe in ghosts though.
No, I do too, but yeah. I think it's really
Which
interesting. I don't know.
Will's stepmom was so baffled by that because yeah, so like they were here this weekend and I was playing a ghost hunting game with Will's little sister, and they were watching it in the living room while I was playing in here, and it's ghost hunting games, and what is it? She made a comment about like, have you ever been ghost hunting, or has she ever been like really ghost hunting, or like Will was just like, hey, Emily's done this, and she just couldn't fathom that like I believe in ghosts and he doesn't believe in ghosts, but we're still thriving together. It was like, it can happen.
Yeah, I mean, just because I mean, that's
He's
not
like, just because
that
I'm
belief,
atheist doesn't mean anything.
right? Well, and that belief, like, doesn't hurt anyone else. It's not like you believing that ghosts are real hurts him or anyone else, and his belief that they're not real doesn't hurt anyone else. So, like,
No,
that's a belief that's very easy to coexist with. Yeah, Brittany and I don't
it
have
probably would be
exactly the
very,
same beliefs either. So yeah,
yeah. Not that I would love for him to come with me on like a ghost hunt. I think that like in real life, I think that'd be so fun. But I'm sure other people would be like, having an atheist here or having a non-believer, a skeptical person wouldn't be very like. They probably would be like, that's not very fun. Just because he's
eh,
probably like, it's probably an electrical wire, like shit's flying all over the room, and he's like, nah, not a ghost.
it's wind. It's the wind.
There's a breeze. There's a draft somewhere.
All right, but someone else's disbelief doesn't shouldn't affect your fun. And in fact, with the one-liners and shit that Will comes up with, I feel like it'd be even more fun to have him there.
Right? I think it'd be fucking great.
And
But if he
also, my
doesn't,
astrologer said that I am like based on my birth chart and all of that, like I am very likely to have things attached to me. So I'm very leery of ghost hunting and things now because I'm like, oh, I don't want to bring something
yeah,
home. Like,
I
I've
think
got protective spells and things going on, but still, like,
I had someone say that to me too, and I was like, it's the empath.
yeah. Oh my
I
gosh.
mean,
I was talking
Will's
about path energy the other day, but that would take me down a whole other rabbit hole.
yeah, I would love to go ghost hunting, and I would love for Will to come with. The problem is that if Will doesn't enjoy it as much, he doesn't see the need to buy it. So, like going to like a theme park, he's like, I don't really want to ride the rides. I might ride one or two, but I'm
Right.
not going to ride all of them. Why would I spend $50 to go? It's like the same for this though. So
Yeah. That
we
makes
just have to
sense.
find a ghost hunting thing near us,
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, maybe
not
we'll
a
do some
ghost
research
tour.
for one of these times that I'm coming
Yeah,
down. Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll bring all kinds of protective things because I don't want to bring anything home.
Listen, you can always
Anyway,
come. You can always come when Chloe comes. She's coming in October,
that's actually long enough away. I might be able to swing it depending on when she's coming because of school. But
first week,
okay.
literally the whole week.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
um, the next thing in the book is another movie. And we
The
just
next,
shake the book at you.
you're gonna break
Um,
it at that rate.
listen, do you see all of these sticky notes? Okay, is Don't Knock Twice, which came out in 2016. It's described as a British supernatural horror film.
Oh,
This one,
I thought you were like literally saying "don't knock twice." It's bad luck kind of thing, and I was like,
no, 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 no. It's a movie.
why?
Don't Knock Twice.
And then
Don't
you
Knock
said that,
Twice.
and I was like, oh,
Um,
sorry. Go ahead.
so it's the one of the like trailers or whatever says knock once to raise her from her bed, knock twice to raise her from the dead. And that's something that you would say outside the door of a long dead woman who took her own life and was believed to be a child eating witch. And basically, this movie is kind of based on Baba Yaga,
Oh,
which
that's cool.
I would love to do an entire episode just on Baba Yaga because she's fucking fascinating.
We could
Um,
totally do that.
but that's a whoa for another time. Um, but
I mean, we
basically,
do have a folklore segment.
we do, we do.
We're
So
in
I'm here for.
Greece, though. We're not.
Yeah, we're not. I think that's
We're
like
not in.
Russian.
Yeah,
Some
it's the
yeah,
Slavic locations.
yeah.
We talked a lot about Baba Yaga in our Russian fairy tale class. So
I I am very interested in Baba Yaga. There's so many
there's
different
like
stories. There's
there's
actually a
songs
whole
about her.
Scooby Doo episode
Mm-hmm.
about Baba Yaga. Um, Obviously in Scooby Doo, it's never actually a witch; it's a person in a costume. But it has like they have the house with the chicken legs and everything in the episode, so it's really cool. Um, but basically, this one is well, what we're talking about right now is in Turkey. Um, there, so Baba Yaga will put like a curse on you, and one way to um like evade the curse or block the curse is to have an evil eye token. Which there's different versions of the evil eye for different um cultures. Like the ancient Egyptians had the eye of
Eye of
Horus.
Horus.
Yep.
I have an
Um,
evil eye pendant for my keychain. It's a keychain.
yeah. And like the blue with the white and the yep, that's
It's like a turtle that has like dangles of the eye on it.
oh that's cool. Um and Egyptians and wait, where is this? Not Egyptians. Some places in the world, some countries still put the evil eye on the sides of like planes to ward off evil, the same way that like Egyptians and Etruscans painted the eye on their ships
Are
to ensure
they?
safe passage.
Is it like huge? Like a huge eye? Is it like a
I
tiny
don't
little
I
like
don't
blink and
know.
you'll miss it kind of thing?
I'm guessing it's small because I feel like some people would be like, I'm not getting on a plane with witchcraft on it.
It's probably not here. It's probably not in America.
Yeah, it's probably not in the United States. It's probably not, maybe even still in Egypt. Like,
I'll look it up. You said it's from Egypt.
yeah. Um, so the evil eye is supposed to represent envy. As a person grows successful, rich, and happy, they are looked upon by their friends and neighbors with growing jealousy. And if they do not protect themselves with an amulet of an eye, they will lose all their fortune and goodwill. Um, Unfortunately, in this movie, the charm or the evil eye charm is not protection, but it's a mark of who's controlled by this witch. So they like if you get this mark, then you're under the witch's control. You're basically her slave until either you kill the witch or you trick someone else into taking the evil eye. Um, so that's how the people in this movie get the um, yeah, get stuck with the witch. Yep. And I'm not going to tell you the rest of what happens because this also sounds like a really interesting movie and I don't want to give away the ending, but it does talk about it. However, I am going to tell you another fun fact in the book is that in 2018, Baba Yaga's peculiar house with chicken legs was built and put on display at the annual Burning Man festival, which I thought was kind of cool.
Isn't the Burning Man festival where it's like in the desert and it's just like a gigantic wooden man that they light on fire at night?
Yeah, I believe so.
Do they do it around Beltane?
I don't know. I
They're
do not
missing a
know.
great opportunity.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, were you able to find anything
Yeah,
on
it's
the?
Fly Air, uh, based in Istanbul, Turkey,
Okay, that makes sense.
um, and it's huge.
Okay, it is huge. Okay, cool. Yeah, like
Uh,
it.
yeah. So it's
It is in Turkey. Well, that makes sense because it definitely was talking about Turkey, and that's like in Turkey, it's still a tradition to give newborn babies an evil eye to protect them. So that makes
I
sense.
was gonna say it can't be anywhere here.
Yeah, no,
and I,
that's
and I don't think Fly Air, I've never seen or heard of Fly Air.
mm-mm.
So I wonder if it's like not necessarily European only, but like it makes local flight stops. Kind of like like the tiny like little United flights when
Yeah,
you're only flying like a couple of hours, like the little tiny jet things. That's what I'm thinking it is.
probably. It's probably not like a intercontinental flight kind of
Yeah,
airline.
because I feel like you would fly like Lufthansa or there's always a connecting flight of some sort or United for that.
Right. Well, the next movie in I think this is the last one in the witch as monsters section. Yeah, it is The Conjuring.
Oh, that's also a good movie.
This one I haven't
That
seen
is.
either.
Oh, you kidding me? Oh, that
I
one.
don't know if I want to see this one.
It
Um,
it it's kind of unnerving. Yes.
yeah. And just reading about it, like the people that it was based on sound really interesting. Like I'd like to learn more about them. But movies like this, because this one it specifically says jump scares and creepy dolls aside, it is the story of a witch bent on destruction. I don't like jump scares. First of all, they make my heart beat fast and I don't like it. And I do not like creepy dolls. Don't like them. In fact, my mom brought me my one when I was a little girl. My mom bought me a ceramic doll, and it had like multiple outfits, and it's in this cute little box, and I love it, and it's so cute, and I loved it growing up. I played with it all the time. That bitch is locked in the closet because I'll mess
Yo,
with creepy dolls.
I have okay. So my damn, I just got blinded by the sun. You're getting blown up over there. So there was like three porcelain type dolls that I had growing up. They were gifted to me by my dad's grandma who made them like from scratch. Made them with dark curly hair, like they were supposed to be doll versions of me. I have three of them. However, never liked dolls like that. I was fine with Barbie dolls. I was fine with teddy bears, like those kinds of dolls. Porcelain dolls creeped me the fuck out from a young age. I don't know what happened. I don't know where it started. It is just there. Don't like them. And I don't think they like me because when I went ghost hunting, I got a lot of activity in the doll room. And when I say doll room, I mean like 120 dolls in one
Mm-mm.
room.
No, thank you.
And I don't like them. And my dad's like, "Why don't you put them on display? Like my grandma made it for you." And I'm like, "Okay,
No.
well, you know what? I don't know great grandma that well. You can keep those devil dolls away.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Keep 'em in the
This one my
boxes."
mom bought for me, and it's gorgeous, and I loved it when I was little. I played with it all the time. But now that I'm older, I'm like, no, no, that bitch is gonna stay in
No
the closet.
thanks. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
mm.
Mm-mm.
They're not even near me. And you know what? It's gonna stay that way. There
Oh
are
my
plenty
gosh.
of brown hair, brown curly eyed. I said that backwards. Brown eyed, curly, brown haired girls out there that would love to have these dolls. No thanks,
Right.
not me. Not
Oh my
I.
gosh. Um, yeah. So no thanks. I don't think I want to watch this one. However, this movie is um inspired by Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Which weren't
Um,
they supposedly like fakes?
well, that it's kind of iffy. Um, Ed Warren was a demonologist, and Lorraine was a trance medium. Um, and it's everything that's said about them is that they were not strange. They, if you had the privilege of speaking to them, they would seem like normal folks. Which, like, fuck you, because if you had the privilege of speaking to me, and just like if you just met me on the street, I'm not gonna come up and be like, witches are real, and I'm gonna cast a spell on you. Like,
Ah!
right? Like, I'm not gonna just start speaking Latin at you, you know. Um, but it was also said that they were ordinary people who happen to do extraordinary work in a field that most people fear or don't believe. Um, they were very religious and were very like, we're doing this for God kind of thing.
Which I could see that.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're a demonologist, you are probably Catholic or religious at the bare minimum.
yeah. But it's kind of weird because they are religious, but she's a medium. I feel like religious people typically don't believe in that.
Uh, I can see yes and no. I think religious people who are mediums would, instead of saying like I speak to the dead, probably be like I speak to angels or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or like God bestowed this upon me to help whatever. I feel like they would twist it to be on
Yeah, kind
witchcraft
of like
type
how
thing.
people will use tarot cards but call them angel cards. Kind of
Yeah.
the same thing. Like, okay, those are tarot cards, but whatever.
You do you, boo boo.
um so there was this whole like seance that they did that caused um Carolyn Perron, which I'm not sure how she's related. She's in some way related to the other two, to be temporarily possessed. And Ed Warren's oldest daughter, Andrea, was watching. She said, I thought I was going to pass out. My mother began, oh, so that was the mom. My mother began to speak a language not of this world and a voice not her own, and her chair levitated and she was thrown across the room. This is the person that they were doing the seance for. The Warrens, Ed and Lorraine were doing a seance for this family. Um, After that happened, Andrea Perron actually wrote a three volume book series um, called House of Darkness and House of Light. And this all talks about her supernatural experience. This book series sounds super interesting. Um, and she also is very scientific. She's like, there's a scientific explanation for what happened. We just simply haven't discovered it yet, which I feel like is a really valid way of looking at it. Because
Hmm.
how, like, I mean, 100 years ago, we didn't have the stuff we have now. So how can you say for sure that there's no way that that's possible to prove scientifically? Like, it just irritates me.
It's just frustrating, okay?
Yes. And then obviously, because this is all about like um what is that word? The word just exorcisms, and like biblical kind of things. They talk about the satanic panic that happened in the United States in the 1980s. Um, because they're talking about child sacrifice, which is apparently discussed in the movie, maybe. I don't know.
Possible.
Um, and they go through and talk about all the different um, references to child sacrifice in various religions and cultures, including Christianity. But the part that I wanted to highlight, because, and I will highlight it every time it comes up in anything, I think I've actually talked about this on the podcast before, was that in this time of the satanic panic, um, tons of people were falsely arrested. It was very similar to the witch hunts. Tons of
Can we
people
please
were,
get that as a sticker?
what, satanic panic?
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. I'm here for it.
Will you make me a sticker?
Yes, I will.
Thanks. That just sounds great. I want it.
I
I'm gonna put
like
it on
it.
my car.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Um so yeah, like tons of people were falsely accused and arrested for different things. Probably the most famous case of this was the West Memphis 3, which were three teenagers in Arkansas who were convicted of murders that the prosecutors and police portrayed as satanic sacrifice. There were three like 8-year-old boys that were murdered, like brutally murdered. It was awful. I'm not going to go into details, but these three teenagers were arrested for it. And the way that they got a confession, and I'm using heavy air quotes here, out of one of the teenagers is one of these three teenagers had autism. And they basically told him that if he confessed, they were going to buy his dad a new truck and they were going to do all of these things. But the tape mysteriously got turned off for more than half of his, like he was interrogated for, like, I want to say it was upwards of 8 hours, and there are about 30 minutes of recordings of this interrogation that they played in
I feel
court.
like that's a good way to like break down your client because like if you come in and ask it a different way 8 7 times,
Yeah.
like
And he had
we're just are
autism, so
gonna
like he
that's
wasn't like, they were probably using language he didn't understand, telling him things, and like his dad was worried about money, so they offered to give his dad a new truck and all of these things. So obviously he was like, yeah, if it'll help out my dad. And he wasn't thinking of the repercussions and the consequences, because a lot of people with autism, not all, I am not making generalizations, but a lot of people with autism don't always understand the typical or neurotypical repercussions to some of their actions, because it doesn't make sense to them. Especially if a police officer tells you this is all going to be okay, then you're going to believe that person because you believe
and you're
in
supposed to
authority.
trust the police,
Yeah.
which is sad because can you truly trust them?
Well, and in this particular
I'm
case,
not
the main,
saying like they're all bad though, but
no, there are bad apples in every bunch though. And in this case there was a bad apple, because the one of the teenagers was, his name was Damian Eccles, I believe. And the main like detective on this case was against him, like for other things. He was like, he's satanic, he's evil, he's an occult, like he's doing all of these demonic things. And like he was like, he did it. And this case has actually never been solved. There's, if you look at all the evidence they have, there's a pretty clear person who it probably was, but there's not
it's kind of
enough
like the
evidence to
Manson
link him.
murders.
Yeah, like you can't prove it, but
Can't prove he did it, but
right.
he
But if he did it,
did
he might
it.
write a
He
book about
didn't
it.
do it physically.
Yeah.
Mentally, he did it.
So then they put a little blurb in here, and it says the West Memphis Three were teenagers when they were convicted of killing three 8-year-old boys in 1993. Because of the teens' interest in heavy metal and their goth appearances, they were singled out, and a motive of child sacrifice was assumed. They were later found to be innocent of the gruesome murders. So literally, because they listened to heavy metal music, and I want to say it was a Metallica shirt that the kid wore all the time. Yeah, they decided that they were satanic and
I
arrested
love
them.
Metallica. They are so good.
Yeah, it was wild. And they didn't
That's
get
fucked up.
released until 2011. So they were in jail from 1993 as teenagers. I think the oldest one was 19 till
18 years?
2011. Yeah.
That's when
So
I was
half their
born, and that's
life,
when I graduated high school.
half their life they spent, or more than half, because I think the youngest one was 17. they spent in prison for something they didn't do. Yeah. It's wild. It's a wild case. Like there's so much information out there. And actually, what's her name from the used to be the Dixie Chicks, now they're just the Chicks. I think it's Natalie is her name. She got involved in this case and was one of the people that helped bring awareness to it to help them get released because it's ridiculous. It's wild. We're not a true crime podcast, so that's all I'm going to say about it. But
Yo, I love true crime though. I would be stoked to like also do that.
yeah, it's so interesting. Like,
And
and
there's so many.
that case in like really tugs at your heartstrings because you're like, what? Like they took advantage of this kid with a disability and then threw these three kids in. It's wild. Anyway, section 5. I'm going to start section 5, but there are 4 things and 4 chapters in section 5, so we're not going to get all the way through it this episode.
Okay, real quick. Look at this.
What is that?
That is a toddler sized doll. Not even toddler, more like a 7-year-old sized doll that my best friend's grandma had in her apartment.
No, I feel like
It was in
no.
her bedroom. It was in her
That thing is
bedroom. It's
evil.
in her own
Listen,
rocking chair
that thing
facing
had
the
vibes.
bedroom or like the bed.
Vibes. I did not like that thing.
I
Anyway,
know as soon as I walked in, I was like, ugh, gotta go.
nope. Goodbye. Section 5 is about
Oh,
covens.
Covens.
And the first movie is the one that everyone's going to be like, what do you mean you've never seen that movie? Because as a witch, I feel that I should have seen this movie, but I wasn't allowed to watch movies like this when I was younger. But I need to watch it. The Craft.
Throw salt over your left shoulder.
The Craft is about Sarah, who is a lonely suicidal teen who has natural witch abilities. She meets Nancy, Bonnie, and Rochelle. And they become her coven where she can appreciate her given talents. Um,
It's a
and
pretty good movie.
so I've heard so many good things and I've seen so many good things and I see memes all the time and I'm like, I don't understand that meme because I've never seen that movie. I feel like I need to watch it
Yeah.
because I feel like I'm missing out.
The person who I can't pronounce her name, Feruza Balk, I think it is, or something like that, but she plays Nancy Downs. Let me tell you, she is so good in that. Like she is insane, but she's
Yeah,
great.
I love it. I've heard good things. So
Are
yeah.
you going to talk about practical magic?
I don't think practical magic is in this book. It's not. No, I'm not.
Oh,
However, practical magic is a whole series of books. And they're amazing. So it might be something we look into for the future.
I've never read them, so
Oh my god, I have, and they're so good. So good. Anyway. um so in this movie, they created a fictional pagan god. Took like different things from different deities, specifically nature deities, but they didn't do an authentic deity in the movie. Because they wanted to be respectful of pagan religions, but they also didn't want to encourage teenagers to summon evil.
okay.
So in the movie, they do a lot of things that are legit, but they're not legit to that god. So like that god in the movie doesn't exist, which I thought was actually really cool. There is this person. Damn it. Who was she again? Peyton McCarty Simus or Seamus. She's an author, like a doctorate kind of author. She writes like academic papers. She wrote a paper called I Am That Very Witch, Gender, Genre, Psychedelics, and Objection in the 2010s Witch Horror Cycle. And she said that scholar Ned Noddings theorizes that the representation of the witch as the ultimate anti-Christian is in part a strategy to make paganism, which often lauds fertility and eroticism as divine, as threatening rather than appealing to Christians. Eve, a figurehead of unbridled sexuality and appetite when paired with the serpent, a pagan symbol, is depicted as catastrophically dangerous to humanity, while the divinely guided Mary represents perfect purity even in childbirth because God caused her conception. Thus, sexuality is reviled only outside the control of male authority. So, yet again, it's another feminist stance on witches. Like, witches are bad because they allow women to be free, basically. Which I thought was just an interesting quote.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's all I had. So the rest of this chapter is an interview with Peyton McCarty Stemus. It's interesting, and I totally recommend reading it, but I didn't have anything else I felt was important for us to talk about here. I'm going to do one more real quick because this section has 4 chapters. So if I do one more, then we'll be even for the next episode. I meant to look up how the pronunciation of this movie, and I didn't. So sorry, but it's Suspiria, I think. Suspiria. Um. So this starts in 1845. There was a British essayist, Thomas de Quincey, which I feel like in the 1800s, like writing essays instead of novels was like a thing. Like a lot of people did that. He actually didn't. He wanted this to be 32 parts, but he didn't finish before he died. One part, so it says Suspiria was a fantastical meditation on memory and experience through the prism of psychedelic drugs. Um, yeah, his most famous essay is called Confessions of an English Opium Eater. So, like, lots of interesting things happening.
All right. Well, you know what? I love a good biography.
Yes. So after he died, there were multiple essays that were found and published posthumous after he died.
Posthumous.
Posthumously.
Humorously.
I don't know. After he died.
Posthumorously.
One of them was called Livana and Our Ladies of Sorrow. And this one is what um, the movie is about. So there's 3 sisters. They're all. Let me look at this. It's hard to understand because it's written in like his time.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't talk to anyone. They don't. They do everything in like code and different languages and stuff. They're 3 witches and they're conjuring. They are
Oh,
the
goody.
inspiration for the Italian director and screenwriter Dario Argento in his Three Mothers trilogy. They're horror films, which consist of Suspiria and came out in 1977, Inferno 1980, and The Mother of Tears 2007. So big jump there between the second one and the third one. But like each one of them rolls over a different city. One of them's in Freiburg, Germany, one's in New York City, and one's in Rome. And these are about these 3 different witches. But they sound really interesting. I'm curious how well they age just because of the time that they came out and the different things that it's about. They do find out. So this girl in Suspiria named Susie, she goes to Germany, I think, for like a dance class or something. And when she gets there, like there are 2 murders that happen immediately. she eventually figures out that Helena Marcos is a witch and how her coven works. Basically, if you kill her, Helena Marcos, the whole coven dies. Um, so that's what she's trying to do in the movie. But actually, that's it. This makes me laugh super hard. I was dying as I was reading this because the parallels are hilarious. The first part is sad though. So the concept of a leader dying and their followers like then either dying or having a dismal fate like really exists in the real world. The first example I give is the beaching of whale pods. So it's happened multiple times where they found an entire pod of whales beached and dead, and they're like, what the hell happened here? Like one whale, okay, like something crazy
Cthulhu.
happened, but like for a whole pod of whales, they're like, what the hell? So the main theory is the sick leader theory. um and the theory is basically that the leader, or I don't know, alpha, it's not what they call it for whales, but basically the one in charge is like sick and trying to get into shallower water so it doesn't drown, because whales breathe air, not water. um and all of the whales follow it, and so they get drowned. That part's really sad, but this next part kind of cracks me up because they then link that to suicide cults where like the cult leader dies
Oh,
and
like
then
the
all of
alien.
yes,
That one.
yes.
That's
So
fucked up.
it kind of made me laugh that they were like, you know, whales and dolphins do this, and so do idiot humans. So that made me laugh. But that is the
That's
end
fucked
of
up.
that one. There, like I said, there are two more. Um, the Witches of Eastwick and Death Becomes Her are also in the Covens section.
Oh my god, I love Death Becomes Her. It is such a good movie.
I haven't seen that one either, but
Honey
apparently,
Boo Boo.
well, yeah, I need to watch it. And also apparently there is, which I'll talk about next week, but there is two drag queens that have made a um, stage show called Drag Becomes Her, and they had to put it on pause because of COVID, but it sounds so fucking good.
Don't mind
So
me. I'm gonna look it up.
yeah, we're gonna have to look that up. Um, but then there's two more sections: the Witches on Television, and what was the last one?
Oh, there's a documentary on it.
Witches in Love. So we've got 2.5 more sections, but we're not going to do a Science of Witchcraft next week. Next week we are going to start, drumroll please, A Court of Silver Flames. We're going back to Akatar, baby.
Mentally, I don't know if I'm ready for it. Ow, I hit my elbow. I'm not ready for it. I know I'm not.
That was an omen if I've ever seen one.
Ow. Oh, when you hit your funny bone and then it's just like the pain shoots up into the fingers
Yes.
and you're like, ugh. Oh, I didn't like that. Oh.
Oh my gosh. On that note, I don't know if we've made it yet, but there is going to be a coming soon post coming soon on social
Already
media.
did it.
Already did it. Yay.
Already posted.
Perfect. I haven't seen it yet, but that makes sense.
Anyways,
So you'll be able to see what we got coming up, and that's all we got for today. So
until next time.
bye.